Please join me in welcoming Tom Ito as our 2023 Unfold keynote speaker. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Leah, so much for inviting me here today. And I couldn't be more thrilled to be here in Amsterdam. And thank you for that most flattering introduction. You know, I was here in Amsterdam just last year in May to celebrate my birthday. And it was a big one. But, you know, they're all big these days for me. But I spent it with my friends and family. And I walked away with so many memories, too many to name. But most importantly, I spent it with the people that I loved. So when Leah and Muse asked me to come here today, it took about this much time to say, yes, I would love to come. Because it's so rewarding to come here to a city which is so culturally rich, and one of the most sustainable cities in the world. And I respect and applaud them for that. But isn't that what it's all about these days? Is exploring, discovering, and growing, and really remember what's really important to us in our lives, and that is life with other people, and to visit places that values and prioritizes the human experience. So we know that the world is changing at an astonishingly alarming rate. So we need to understand what we're facing today. That's some of our biggest challenges. And we call this crisis multiplier. Here we have the pandemic, social justice, climate change, new globalization, and economic volatility. And we know these crises, compounded upon each other, exacerbate at the speed of change and the impacts they're making. And as a result, we're seeing challenges that we've never witnessed before. And those challenges had significant impacts on our design. So we're talking about design in a radically changing world. Overnight, we've embraced new ways of living, embedded new technologies, and looked at new ways to adopt our lifestyle as a result. We believe that design is critical to our future and can be the catalyst to make positive change to address our world's most challenges. We believe that design for the human experience could not be more important than now. So let's walk through kind of the design process and thought-provoking ideas that really drives innovation, what our design process is. And we know that crisis drives change, as I just mentioned. So what we do is we identify the challenges, we question, we observe, we use our research institute, and stay curious. Then we go into a transformation stage, which we call blue sky thinking, where we imagine the possibilities. We look at different ways of which to look at a situation. We do fast-track design. We do options. We bring a number of strategic thinkings together to have all preconceptions aside. And we've heard the idea of there are no bad ideas. Well, this is how we generate new thinking. And as a result, we find fresh design solutions that shifts paradigms to shift and transform our industries, and hopefully giving you new offerings of way to maximize your assets. So how do we create a roadmap for the built environment that turns crisis into opportunity? Well, I'd like to share with you a number of meta trends that we developed from our design forecast in 2023, and here they are. The first is about reclaiming experience, because we know that people today desire immersive experiences to enrich their lives. And we know that there's a pent-up demand for these experiences because we don't know how much we miss something until it's taken away from us. Yes, and that was taken away from us. But we need to reclaim it. But first of all, we need to understand what drives an experience to reclaim it. So I want to share with you a study that we did with the Research Institute, which took 2 years of ethnographic research and try to do it in two seconds. But it really starts with the motivation and the intention of why do I go, or what do I want to experience. But it's that coupled with the expectation of what I expect, the interaction of the who, and these days, what I'm going to interact with, and the space is where I live, and the quality design. Put those all things together, the intention, married with expectation, interaction, and physical space, and you'll walk away having a great experience. So for example, we designed the Music Center of the Future here, and the intent was to be entertained. The expectation here is I'm going to be seeing an amazing performance from my favorite band. The interaction would be, and I'm going to spend it with 18,000 of my new best friends, which is what this Music Center holds. And of course, you're going to be doing this in a beautifully designed spaces with the latest technology. So put all three things together, and your guests will walk away saying that I had a great experience. Decarbonization. We know that this continues to be the imperative of our time. And we know that buildings are the largest contributors to CO2 emissions, accounting for 40% of total emissions in the world today. So that means we have a responsibility in the built environments to reduce carbon. And that means both embodied carbon, which is what it takes to build a building, and operating carbon, what it takes to operate. So for example, here in Citizen M's, which is a modular hotel that we designed in Seattle, was built in a factory to significantly reduce carbon emissions from the normal environmental impacts from normal construction technology by reducing traffic, air quality, and emissions. And for example, Gensler has made a big commitment in what we call the GC3 initiative, with Gensler's Climate Cities Change. And that means that we are committed to design the next generation of net zero buildings by 2030. And guess what? It's coming quickly. And then we have the live-work connection. We know that workplace is changing at an unprecedented rate as well. The younger generations, the Gen Zs, the millennials, the Gen X, and all the gens are wanting to find the third place to work in addition to their normal in-house locations. And what better place to have the third place to work than in hotels? And of course, we have equitable design, which is a demand for buildings to have a social impact are increasing. And by designing for equitable design, we can address issues such as inequality, community health, and of course, aging populations. And we learned today that there will be more grandparents in the world than grandkids. So what that means is that there's increased demand, and I would say have quality senior living that is designed for an active aging population because we are living longer. So here we designed a luxury retirement community that wants to change the paradigm of what it's like to be in a community like this by offering a number of amenities and educational programs to really change the perception of not having to live in a place like this, but wanting to live in a place like this. And of course, we have intelligent design, and prop-tech and smart building technologies will redefine the experience of place. And we know that technology can actually enhance the guest experience. And who knows that better than Muse? We know intelligent design is in our future. So what does that mean in respect to hospitality today? Well, hospitality today and the motivations are changing as well. And people are making decisions to travel that align with their values, but also what they aspire their lifestyle to be. So let's review some of the themes that will influence hospitality design for the future. First, we have social responsibility. And travelers and consumers these days all want to feel like they're doing something good. And with the increasing awareness of climate change, travelers are traveling more intently and more thoughtfully these days. And many travelers we know and consumers will actually pay more for the opportunity to support eco-friendly businesses. And we know that 38% of travelers would actually pay more to make their travel more sustainable, doing their part to save the planet. So here we designed the Westin Hotel at the Denver International Airport, which is the highest platinum rating that you can get in an airport hotel. And what we did to reduce emissions, we reduced energy by over 40% and water consumption or over 30%, which are big numbers in the hospitality industry. But not only did we create sustainable design strategies, but also we changed the paradigm of what it's like to be in an airport hotel by creating a destination-driven place that brought the community in because of the transit hub right underneath the hotel that brings the city right to it. And we designed these great outdoor spaces to bring and host people to come into this destination at the airport. We also want to look for opportunities to look at the uniqueness of its location. And in this case, it was the airport. So what we did was elevated the whole lobby and social experience to overlook, to see the activity of the airport, and so much fun to watch what's happening in an airport today. So social community and connection could not be more important today, particularly when we've been apart for so many years. And also, as we know, loneliness is on the rise, and it's rising, and it's a pretty critical issue that we're dealing with today. So hotels are creating spaces that connect and bring people together. And we know that humans are deeply social creatures. We are socially built. It's part of our DNA, and that's what drives us. So let's design spaces for these social creatures. So here we have the Collective, which is a members-only club that we designed in Seattle, which pairs fun activities like bouldering, you can see here, co-working, and brings authentic details such as local food, music, and art to instill a sense of community to enhance the experience. And it's a perfect place to bring people together, offering a variety of experiences, which is a symptom of today's doing everything, everywhere, all the time. And it's not the movie, by the way, but it's a recognition that the design reflects the blur of our modern lifestyle. The one-purpose space is obsolete. And here we have the Rebirth by Hard Rock, which is a project that is slated for the eclectic music lovers, where they can express themselves, meet new people, and experience a melting pot of music culture. It's a place that we design to take in effect the musical tastes of guests in different music genres, but more importantly, to bring people of various diverse backgrounds together to create together. And another example in support of equitable design, diversity, and inclusion. And then we designed these what we call roadie rooms for the whole crew or family or group that want to stay together. And this is an example of how we can rethink the typical guest room when social connection becomes the driver or its purpose. Travelers today would rather spend on experience than goods. It's really about a shift in mindset of what people value. Social connection, as I mentioned, learning, wellness, but more about a search for meaningful experiences and self-actualization to enrich their lives. This life-centered approach is less about the material and more about the immaterial. It's designing for the intangibles to make people feel transformed, emotionally connected, and to create long-lasting memories. Because memories last a lifetime, things don't. And we know that millennials are obsessed with creating memorable experiences, which will have an overwhelming impact on how to position brands for the future. So here we are. Surf Simply is a place which we designed to blur the lines between a tropical resort, a sports coaching facility, and your friend's most enviable beach house. It's a place where guests come for an inspirational purpose, to learn something new, to be challenged, and inspired as part of the search of personal growth and development. Every aspect of hotels is built on the notion that surfing, if you ever surfed, can create happiness. And if you have done that, I'm sure that'll put a smile on your face. Well, this LEED certified, also Platinum project, was also designed with a lot of passive solutions, with a lot of indoor, outdoor spaces. So let's take a look.
My name is Rue Hill, and I'm the founder of Surf Simply. We had to create this space that accommodated that, and it's a very strange juxtaposition of functions that this building is trying to satisfy. It brings people together during the week, and there's something really special about the fact that people are outside their comfort zone and that they're pushing themselves to their limit emotionally as well as physically and mentally sometimes. And it's almost like that experience shortcuts the process of people becoming friends.
Makes you want to go surfing, doesn't it? And get out of your comfort zone. Well, people leave this magical place making long-lasting friends, another thing that things can't do. So, unlike surfing as a common purpose, what about drinking coffee for you coffee fanatics? And how can we make coffee a meaningful experience? So, what happens here at the Starbucks Reserve, that we've created an atmosphere where you can experience craft coffee, and then craft cocktails, actually extending the offering in a celebration in the theatrical atmosphere that you can see here. And this is a perfect example of how to maximize the utilization of space by engaging different activities to activate the space at all times of the day. And we know it's important for today's travelers to feel a sense of place. And from our Gensler Hospitality Pulse survey, we learned that 70% of travelers want hotels to be integrated into their surroundings. And it really goes back to how people seek enriched, authentic experiences embedded in the local culture and people to actually enrich their lives. We know that there is a need and not a want anymore to be disconnected from our lifestyles. So that gives rise to destination and motivations to travel to resort locations like here, the Ritz-Carlton Reserve in Guanacaste, where it's a luxury resort designed and to celebrate the hidden histories and to experience the beautiful sunsets and be embedded in the beautiful lush gardens in this beautiful region of Guanacaste in Costa Rica. The only purpose of this hotel is to have an unforgettable experience and to learn and teach about the culture and the preservation of nature in every part of the journey. And of course, this project has a variety of accommodations, including these really cool luxury tents that we designed here that really creates a unique experience to really make you feel like you're integrated in this eco-friendly environment. And in today's world, we know that we can work anywhere in the world. So wouldn't it be nice to have a place here as a third place to work? So the inspiration for this, or the motivation, is creating a lot more demand for branded residences and resort locations. And the interior design was designed also with a story about the vanishing past, with indigenous designs that were inspired by the indigenous Cortegas. And of course, every villa has to have your own private pool. And we designed Hotel Chaco, which every part of this project was designed in its local context. A new architectural vernacular was established. We did that for the Southwest. It's not your typical Southwest architecture with the tower roofs and the like. But we took our inspiration from the adjacent ruins in Hotel Chaco. We actually camped there at that night to really get the feeling, to really make a project that really is culturally significant. And the interiors were inspired by indigenous Indian artists who interpreted their art in a modern way, but actually to tell stories of the history. And of course, every hotel has to have a rooftop with amazing views to capture this landscape. In this case, it's in New Mexico. And then we go on the coast to Sri Lanka, where we designed ITC-1 Colombo, which will become the new iconic symbol of the future. And we designed this project using the architectural vernacular of Sri Lanka, but made it in a contemporary way to appeal to the discriminating taste of the savvy global traveler. And of course, every hotel is looking for that wow moment, that special, unforgettable experience. So we designed this connecting bridge, but on top of it, an infinity pool that overlooks the Indian Ocean. And that would be certainly a memorable experience. This project has been under construction for many years and is destined to open this year. So take a visit, take a dip in this pool. We know hyper-personalization is really becoming the core and standard because personal preferences for needs and wants of our guests have increased in priority. We know that every guest these days has specific wants and needs that they feel they want to be serviced these days to make their visit exceptional. So here, we redesign this on a personal level on the super luxury end of travel, where you book your travel and everything from end to end, from the time you leave the doors of your house to the time that you arrive at your destination. Every part of your experience is personally crafted for you, including hotel accommodations, private air travel, certainly car service, every part to have your experience crafted for you end to end. And then you are escorted into these beautifully, exquisitely designed luxury lounge spaces that really appeal to the taste of the high-net individual. So you can imagine where these are. Yes, they are in the Middle East. And when we think about immersive design is about driving a narrative and a story through the guest journey using technology to actually enhance the human experience. It's about using technology smartly to enhance the experience, not replace it. So we designed Atari Hotels to bring this iconic gaming brand to life. And if many of you who are old enough to remember Pac-Man, one of the original Atari games, then you'll know what I'm talking about. And this design is an iconic, bringing this iconic gaming brand to life by using e-gaming as the new inspiration for this project. It's a place to celebrate the past while defining the future. And we envisioned and created the city of Atari that was inspired by this gaming nostalgia, rooted in retro features, juxtaposed with state-of-the-art vernacular and front-end embedded technology. And here we have the Cloud Pavilion in Washington, D.C., which is another immersive experience. And metaphorically, it's really about when we break through the clouds, we can find new perspectives and overcome boundaries of what we previously believed to be the truth. So isn't that we are here today, to break through the crowds, create new ideas? And if this is an example of interactive experiences and immersive experiences, should we have more of these in your hotels? And if so, what would they be? So, what's next? What is the future of hospitality, and what does it look like? Well, I get that question asked a lot, and I wish I can have a clear answer to that question. But as you know, things are changing rapidly every day. We know that what happens today is influencing our future. Can we predict the future? I think not. We would need a crystal ball for that. But what we do have is what we call futures. And futures is a strategic exercise that we employ to project what might be within the context of what is today. It's not about predicting the future, but projecting it. The big shift in this day of volatility and uncertainty is that we are moving away from a data-driven informed approach to an imagination-driven, data-informed approach. I know that's a little bit of a tongue twister, but I'm talking to an audience that probably will get this. And what this means simply is that in order to navigate our way through complexity and ambiguity, we need to start with imagination first, where the big imperative is to begin asking the question, what's the future world that I want to live in, and how can I be a part of creating and building that future world? Well, I'll have you ponder on that for just a moment, and let's take a look a little bit about a little history of the hospitality industry. We know that hospitality has always been a place to create exceptional human experiences, and that's not expected to change anytime soon. And going back to the 1950s, you can see that our appetite has grown. And we realize here that humans spend a lot of time and money exploring new places and traveling to places like Europe, which you're all happy to see here, the Americas and Asia Pacific. And we were expecting that appetite to grow until something happened that brought the industry to a screeching halt. The global pandemic forced the hospitality industry to completely rethink and reimagine its paradigm. We saw social distancing lead to outdoor dining, and we saw outdoor dining changing the urban fabrics of our streetscapes and in our cities today. Our hospitality pulse survey that we did in 2020 revealed that only 12% of people want hotels to operate the same way as they did before the pandemic, which is a dramatic consumer response that's telling us we need to do something differently or else we are going to be obsolete. So don't be in that red box over there. Let's push forward. So as travel rebounds, and we know that it's rebounding quickly, we are seeing some interesting signals. What are signals? Well, signals are defined as innovations, behaviors, and events that we see in today's world that can influence the future in a meaningful way. So let's walk through a few of these now. The first one rallies around technology, and specifically around Web3 and NFTs, non-fungible tokens, and blockchain. These tools can play a significant role in automating most back-of-house functions like dynamic pricing and effectively meeting inventories with digital twins. We know that proof of attendance protocols, or POAPs, are being adapted as a digital experience overlay in the real world, and that tokenized experiences are giving way to access to amenities, both virtually and physically. We're also seeing advancements in AI and machine learning, which enables us to target guests in social media to create personalized itineraries and seamless guest experiences. And today, we're able to carry an entire production and Broadway suites in our pockets, enabling us to have endless avenues for content creation, influencing the decision of others. We know that's happening today. We have that right in our back pocket. We're also seeing that labor forces were dramatically impacted, particularly in the hospitality and service industries, with the highest turnover rates and massive quit rates that we've seen in our history. And it's a real challenge to bring the workplace back. So it's really about reimagining an environment that has predictable hours, a decent living wage, offering amenities, and a comfortable place to work. We also know that there's a movement to change back of house to the heart of house. It's really flipping the hospitality industry and ourselves on its back. Understanding that investing in our people, our biggest asset, is the key for us to be better equipped to create great experiences for our guests. We're seeing an increased appetite, what we call lifestyle integration. And what that means, and we've all seen it today, that sort of emerged between our work, our leisure, and our travel. And what better place to do that? We've seen in hotels, we're seeing that happen now. We know that employers today want to build a camaraderie with their employees. We know employees are wanting, remote employees, by the way, are wanting to find a way to meet in meaningful ways, engaging in person. So we learned that 43% of employers are planning real-life trips in areas to really have meaningful places to gather in person. I think many of you are doing that today. And also, we know that 70% of business travelers, all of you today, will probably extend your leisure trip and will continue to do so in 2023. And of course, we're seeing overwhelmingly increase in climate-conscious travel, as I mentioned before. In 2022, we saw France ban domestic air flights. Can you imagine that? While 90% of people are looking for sustainable options when traveling, such as seeking out local foods and beverages. Certainly, I do that. And then electric vehicle chargers were one of the top booking filters that led to a confirmed stay. We're also seeing that destinations of over-tourism, like places in Bhutan, that affect their local ecology and economy, are instilling a sustainable development fee of over $200 a day. And then finally, we're seeing the emergence of what we call soul wellness. You all heard about or know about medical tourism, but travelers today are seeking more than physical and mental health. They are looking for a spiritual component to add to their travel experience. Hotels used to be the jumping point to explore a destination and experience things such as this, but now hotels and resorts can be the place, as we know that there's a demand to have these types of experiences, so we can be the new destination. The landscape is changing and opportunity abounds. So what does this all mean? Let's start by using the power of imagination and the insights or the signals that we're seeing and happening today to imagine what the future would like to be that we'd like to live in. So let's use our imagination to project into the future. Whoops, little teaser there. So what we did, we had some fun, actually, and we really took a look into the future and engaged an AI image generator to see what it looks like. Because certainly I don't know what it looks like, by asking some questions, some what-if questions, and these are just a few. So, well, actually, it is here. So, what if autonomous vehicles and eVTOLs, which are basically flying cars, become more widely adopted? And how might road tripping be transformed and reimagined? Basically a hotel on wheels, right? As climate change limits snow and ski resorts, and that breaks my heart as an avid skier, will water sports become the new skiing, the new sport? What if we could collect virtual tokens of souvenirs from the physical places where we had memorable experiences? Now that would be cool. What hotels reimagine their offering if average stays go from days to months to even years? And I think somebody's actually doing that today. And what if immersive tech allows us not only to experience different places, but different times in history? Now that would be cool too. And finally, what if digital content became a core hospitality competency? We can see there's a lot of what ifs and a lot more provocations. But for us in the design world, what does that mean to influence the physical space? Well, I can't tell you the answer to that question, but I can tell you the design is a way to make these projections into reality and to continue to involve the human experience. So I'd like to leave you asking one final question here, and a challenge that I think many of you probably have already answered. You know, back in the day, there was the first hotel that had the first business center. And look at it today, there's a business center or a business component to every hotel. So I would ask you, what is your first? And how can we imagine it together? Thank you.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much for that. I think we still have time for questions. So we're just going to get the Slido up there. So if you want to ask any questions, just either go to Slido with Muse Unfold as the hashtag, or just scan that in. And I'm going to kick you off with one question of my own.
Yes, sir.
So, you mentioned there what's the first. So, I think that it's always difficult when you have an existing space and you are a hotelier or an owner or something like that. From an architect's point of view, where do you think the first places for experimentation are? What kind of small things and small iterations do you think people in the room can actually start off with?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think what it's really about is taking a look at your space and how you can reutilize it or reimagine it. You already got a space, and many times there are spaces that are underutilized or may not be utilized in its maximum. And we know today that spaces want to be flexible. And as I mentioned, the single-use space is obsolete. So why don't you start with spaces and create new experiences in that place, experiment with it, create a new food offering, create a new experience in the space that you already have, and then test it out. It's all about testing new. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, move on to something else. But the interesting point is that you have an existing asset to do that with.
Yeah.
You can't do that on a built one already. So that's a really great advantage these days.
Nice. Okay. So first question from Anonymous. How do you think human personnel staff should adapt to the new standards? So how do you think about designing basically for the staff?
For the staff. Well, I think, as I mentioned, it's moving from the back of house to the heart of house, and that's my thinking to have, not thinking about the staff or really pushed to the back of the house, but really creating really nice spaces that have engagement to the outdoors as well, to create places to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel just as important as the guest. And that means creating those amenities. And we know that we're doing that in workplace now. It's about, and what we need to do, because we need to use that as a drive to retain staff, but also to recruit them, because we know more about people want to go to a place to meet other people, to really to be offered things that they don't normally have. So let's do that in hotels. Let's create those spaces that make them feel comfortable.
Yeah. I think that's such an incredible point, because I think that, so much of the time we think about back of house and front of house, and I think it's actually about thinking about it as just one community and thinking about your staff as actually part of that community, fostering that community as well.
Well, that's the key to driving a great experience, right? Giving them the opportunity to feel empowered, and the way you feel empowered is to feel good about where you're at, right? So the place to do that, I could tell, again, is about design.
Yeah, I've got to say, I love also the changing language around it. We're moving away from staff and employees, basically, to actually team members and hosts and all of these things. And I know many of you in the room have started to do that. So let's go, a lot of the examples are in the luxury world. What about design experience for non-luxury? How do you think about that kind of, that distinction?
I don't think it matters. I think it's really about the motivation. And for us, if you've seen some of the examples that I made, they weren't luxury, but they really were designed to satisfy a purpose. And it goes back to the motivation of that purpose and what it's for. So it doesn't have to be luxury in a way. It just has to be responsive and be responsive to what people expect out of that space. So I would say it's not one and the same. The only difference is that maybe on the luxury end, there's maybe a higher expectation of a level of service.
Yeah.
And certainly we've seen that in kind of hotels, right? That's the differentiation. So we know that technology will have a great way to do that in a way to enhance that experience.
Like I always think that it's, the things that used to be luxurious 100 years ago are now standard basically now. And that's one of the things that I think the modern world and especially like now technology is actually kind of doing. So when we think about personalization, before it used to be, a concierge that would really, really know you, that would have that kind of empathy. Now you can supercharge that with technology as well. So,
right, exactly.
So I guess the answer to that question is don't think about it as luxury and non-luxury. Think about it as the fact that luxury is coming towards you. So how would a shrinking, aging economies of the future create sustainable tourism and hospitality business? So that's mainly just probably thinking about the demographics of the world.
The shrinking, aging economies in the future.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the shrinking economies. I'm, a pro-growth kind of person, and I don't really believe that we're going backward. But definitely, aging, I think, is one thing. So maybe thinking about basically kind of designing for different demographics. How do you think about that?
Yeah, well, as I mentioned, that we know the aging population is getting bigger, so we need to design spaces for that to really address that growing demand. But I think it goes back to what are the demand drivers, again, and how we see that. And I don't think it's about shrinking the economy. It's probably about transforming or switching them to adapt to a new market or a market change again. So I think it might change in another 20 years when all the aging populations die off, and there's a whole new generation of people that are wanting different things and different wants. And then again, I think that hospitality will still be sustainable.
Yeah.
Because I think, it goes back to we all really want to be socially engaged, and hotels will do that. And we already know that people want to go to places and experience. So I don't see it going away, but I think it's even being sustainable on its own just by nature of the business.
Yeah, like I think the one trend that we're seeing massively is the idea of communities actually kind of interacting much more with temporary or kind of transitional people. So the idea of hotels as well, basically trying to think about, one community that might be kind of living there and one community that might be staying for a few nights. I think that is slowly becoming the norm, actually, in various cities and various kind of different places as well. So, and I think that also really kind of goes into, how we want to spend our lives, basically past the age of retirement as well, and to try and be active. I think more and more people are thinking about it as, moving into more of these kind of community places, basically, and the way that we can revitalize city spaces as well to be able to cater for all of those different types of experiences.
Yeah, exactly. What it's more about kind of merging the community together in different demographics, and that is interest to everybody, right? And we learn from that.
Yeah. I think we're almost at a break now, but there are some other questions. So I'm going to go to this one because I quite like this one. So how would you apply design and the revolutionary AI technology in hotels? I think we're still at the cusp of that, so that's quite a big question, to kind of say, like, how is generative art or generative AI going to change things? How is ChatGPT going to change the way that we actually speak to guests?
Yeah, that's the big one that we're seeing today, is how we use artificial intelligence. But I think more importantly, I think it's being used to really help to make our operations a lot more efficient. But also, we talked about maybe it's a way how you would engage with your guest. But I'm not so sure that's the future yet either, because I think we still want to feel comfortable in engaging with humans.
Yeah.
But I think it's something that we really need to look at in the future. As I mentioned, in the Atari Hotel, that's what exactly we're doing.
Yeah.
We're using that AI kind of mentality to enhance a new experience.
And I do think there is definitely an aspect, and you mentioned it with both the Atari Hotel and others, but the idea that you can actually kind of enhance spaces with these types of kind of immersive experiences. I think the idea of traveling somewhere and feeling like you're on a film set or something like that, that it's actually like one giant adventure and this is like, an immersive RPG game. I think we'll see more and more of those types of concepts basically coming up. And I think that, if you think about it from that perspective, even if you have a small hotel in the seaside, I think if you think about it, like, how would I create this 2-night stay into a film that's based here? I think that in itself is, I think, should get your creative juices going, actually.
Actually, we're seeing that there is a merge between the virtual and the physical, and that's going to happen. And we know that the younger generation don't distinguish the physical from the virtual. It's all the same thing. It doesn't make a difference for them because they're living in a virtual world. So I think it's there for the future. It's how do we embrace that to really enhance the experience.
Like I've seen a lot of these, for example, in Asia as well, these kind of concepts where, it's like a 2-day event basically, and it's a specific thing, and I think that these types of concepts basically seem to be kind of springing up that, you go somewhere and you like dress up in whatever clothing basically. It's like, whether it's MuseCon or whether it's Comic-Con, like all of these different things. I think that people like to actually kind of get out of themselves and become someone that they maybe want to be, whether it's a furry or whatever you're into, like for those couple of days. And I think that as a hospitality concept is very, very close to what we're doing.
And we can do that virtually in the metaverse, right? So
exactly.
Your avatar, so there you have it.
All right, cool. So I think we're gonna, somebody's gonna start playing the music quite soon. So we've got 25 minutes or so for a coffee break, and then after that, please join me on the stage with some amazing guests talking about the new standards in hospitality. But once again, thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you, everybody. Really fun.